Hello everyone and welcome to Crypto Night, the crypto investor channel. I'm Boris, so let's dive in. I'm with Colton today. Hello Colton.
Hey Boris, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the Kryptonite channel, everyone. Today we'll be talking about Aave, so let's dive right into it, Boris. What is Aave, and can you give us a synopsis of their project?
Aave is an Ethereum-based money market. Basically, users can come and they can borrow money or borrow different coins. They can also lend different coins if they have coins that they are wanting to lend to others. They can do so and make, of course, some interests. So Aave has been really at the heart and one of the top DeFi projects out there. Aave is their governance token and their main token, and everybody calls it Aave. And it's one of the largest DeFi coins by market cap.
Can we now talk about the history and performance of Aave, Boris?
Sure. Back in 2017, they had an ICO round. Then in 2018, they used to be called ETHLand, and they rebranded to Aave. And in 2019, they started having their testnet available. And of course, that's when they also launched the native token, Aave, which used to be Lend, and they switched to Aave. And in January 2020, they actually launched the V1 of Aave. And 2020, by October 2020, they actually migrated Lend completely to the Aave protocol, and they did a 1-to-100 ratio. And by December of that same year, they actually launched the V2. They currently just launched V3. We're going to see that in a minute. But up until now, we were running basically on V2, and V1 was still working. Now, what's cool about the whole Aave thing is it's using algorithmic money markets. Basically, the loans are obtained from a pool. So instead of you lending or borrowing from an individual, you are borrowing from a pool. So let's say you have 100 people who want to lend their, let's say their Ethereums. So that 100 people put all that money in a pool. And if someone arrives and say, hey, I want to borrow some ETH, they're going to borrow from the actual pool, not from an actual person. So it redivides the risk across all the people in the pool. Now, of course, the reward is also redistributed. So first of all, that allows everybody to make some money, but also to redistribute the risk, which is really important because in those type of environments, DeFi projects, decentralized finance, capital preservation to me is one of the most important things. Now, the other cool thing is because it's using that pool system, if all the assets or almost all the assets are being used in the pool, that means there is a high demand for it. That means that the interest rate is going to go higher. And then, of course, on the other side, if an asset is in low demand and you have a pool that's barely being used, then the interest rate is going to be low. So that's a really smart way of doing things because it really adjusts, with the supply and demand. Now, all loans are over collateralized, which means that if you borrow $100, of Aave, then you need to deposit more than that amount. So imagine you have the need to, in the real world, you need to borrow $1,000 and you have a car who is, let's say, worth $2,000. That's what you would use as collateral to make that loan. I mean, to borrow that money. The bank would say like, okay, you're gonna sign over the title to us for that car for the time being. You can still drive the car, but if you don't reimburse that $1,000 loan, in 6 months, the car is already ours. There'll be nothing you can do. It'll be gone. It'll be our car. So they collateralize stuff so that people, if they want to borrow, let's say, some ETH, they may have to put some Bitcoins, because maybe the cool thing is they have a bunch of Bitcoins. They're like, okay, Bitcoin isn't going to make me any money, but if I take some ETH and I stake them, then maybe I can make some money. And if I borrow for less than what the staking is making me, so let me put 10 Bitcoins, for instance, to borrow, X number of ETH, depending on the collateral level that needs to be achieved. So let's say they borrow, just for example purposes, 100 ETH, and they borrow at 3% or 2, and then they can stake it at 5%, with Lido or one of those guys. So that's why people would use Aave and why it's being used so much. But with some security, because we saw with Celsius, we saw with Voyager, all those guys were giving loans with no collateral. So of course, when the people could not reimburse, boom, it was the end of Celsius, the end of Voyager. So they have a liquidation process, that obviously, if you don't reimburse, or if the collateral falls, because let's say you put in enough collateral, that's why they over collateralize those loans. Let's say that you put twice the amount, but if the market falls 80%, then your collateral is too small. So usually what happens on those instances is they don't call you, but they send you messages throughout via the platform, and they say, please put more collateral, or we will have to liquidate your collateral to make sure that we can cover your loan. So those are really bad. That's why borrowing money in a bear market is always an extremely risky proposition, and you gotta be really careful with that. So the other thing that they did beyond the money markets is they did the flash loans, where you could borrow money for a very short period of time, and they only exist. Now, they are not necessarily, collateralized in the same way than those money markets, because those loans only live in a very short, like one Ethereum block. So that's just a few minutes. But they have to return the money within the same transaction. So it's very, very quick. It's almost like scalping in trading, where you use money to scalp and make, like, let's say 0.1%. But if you make 0.1% on $500,000, it's still, pretty good, especially if you made it in 5 minutes. And Aave is also working on NFT game, Aave Gochi. So that's another cool thing that they have going on. Last thing is they have the token itself, which is an ERC20, has 3 primary roles. The governance, they ask very often their community to vote on different things. They do incentives, and they also use it for mitigation tool. Obviously governance, pretty obvious. The incentive, it's to stake the coin, staking a coin avoids having major sell-offs, things like that. And then the mitigation, it's basically kind of an insurance, a slash fund, if you will, in case there is an attack on the system. They have some money set aside to reimburse some of the losses. Now, the one thing, that the challenges for Aave, first of all, the loans are over collateralized, which is always difficult. Not everybody can come up with the extra collateral or having any collateral. But that's if you don't have collateral, you cannot borrow. They don't have any kind of, credit card system. So it's all based basically on the collateral. But it doesn't tell you anything about the person borrowing the money. But since there is collateral, who cares? Now, of course, the downside is that some people would say, I don't want to risk, more money than I'm borrowing, but that's the way it works. So the problem is it makes it a little bit inefficient. But I think that with all the lessons we've learned this past year, I would much rather have a system that does over collateral than no collateral at all, and then you take a 50% haircut on your money. The coin at its all-time high was at $661. That was back in May 2021. And then the lowest price was in November 2020 at $26. We're currently around the lines of about $85. Market cap is 1.2 billion. Now, the total value locked, is huge. They have really lots of coins that have been locked. They only have 16 million supply. That's why the coin is so expensive. They only have a 16 million supply with max supply 16 million as well, and a circulating supply of 14 million. So overall, it's a coin that where most people are bullish.
Thank you for that information, Boris. Can we now kind of change gears and talk about what's new with Aave and what's in their future roadmap?
Yeah, they just released V3, which is more secure. They were one or two small problem with the V2. Now V3 brings up some new stuff, like it does Arbitrum, it does Optimism. You have basically new blockchain that it's compatible with. It also introduces the high efficiency mode, what they call the E mode, where user can borrow, using collateral that is correlated to the assets they are depositing and borrowing. So it improves the capital efficiency, and also they introduce some gas optimization features so that you can reduce the gas cost by 25%. So there's been an increase over the past year. They've seen some increase, 20% of increase in borrowing and lending. So the activity is pretty good on Aave. I mean, they have quite a few things, happening. And that V3 is really, I think it's really good. And it brought in more security and more good stuff. And it's going to keep on growing. And I think that a little bit like with the centralized exchange not being really so, people not being too happy with what happened with those, especially FTX, etc. People turn more to decentralized systems. And Aave is the perfect DeFi, one of the best DeFi projects out there. So lots of users, and that V3 is going to bring in, I think, a lot of interest. Now, there's been a decline a little bit on the number of unique users recently, despite the fact that there was an increase in Messari, which is a stake ETH pool on the Aave protocol, which is the largest deposit pool on the platform. So we see on one side things growing, but then the number of unique users is down 35% in a month. Number of transactions is down 45%. But also we have to realize that the prices went up and sharply up. So that may be why also less people are borrowing. Usually it's more going to be in the sideways market that we should see. So it's important to keep an eye on what's going on. Definitely the coin has made a nice recovery around $85 because it had dropped all the way down to about 50 back in November. So over the past 30 days, basically we've seen a 65% increase in the price. And a lot of them were due to some whale transactions. So they were over 106 transactions that were over $100,000. Whales buying a lot of Aave. So we'll see. I mean, it's always important to see that the smart money is actually buying, because that means that they know some things you probably don't.
Thank you for that information, Boris. Can we stake Aave, and do you have any recommendations on where we should be staking Aave?
Yeah, the best is to stake it with the protocol itself. Basically, it's very easy. Now, there's a small risk, that but since they have that safety module I was talking about, where they have some funds, they will cover some of the deficit that you have. Otherwise, it's pretty easy. You stake it, you just connect your wallet, and they give you around 6%, and it varies, from month to month. But on average, roughly, 5 to 7%, it fluctuates. The last thing to know is if you do this with them, you have a cooldown period. You have to wait 10 days. And then once the cooldown period is done, you only have 2 days to really unstake. Otherwise, you have to do the cooldown of 10 days again. But otherwise, very easy, very straightforward. And they pay you regularly, and you can grab those coins that you made through staking and either restake them or add them to your staking pool, or retrieve them if you want to sell them to get some extra cash.
Awesome. My last question for you today, Boris. Can you give us a price prediction for Aave and where you see them in the future?
Yeah, personally, I bought quite a few of them and I've had them for a while, and really a project I like, but I'm not the only one who really likes this project. Many other people that I know that are investors and serious investors in crypto, they really like Aave, and a lot of them have money in Aave. So currently we're at 85. Definitely by next year, we could more than double, go to somewhere along the lines of about 200. Mind you that the all-time high was 600 something. So it's already reached over 600 before. Now, there's never any guarantee that it'll return to its all-time high. But in the case of Aave, I think it's a high chance it could happen. But that's only my opinion, 200 by 2024, around 400 by 2026, 900 around 900 by 2028, and as much as 2,000 by 2030. So let's say the average consensus is around $1,800. So that's a 20x from here. And it's already a big project. So that's what I like, me personally, for myself, buying Aave, is that I'm investing in a project that's already kind of large and still has a potential of a 20x return. So that's really one of my favorite coins, that I hold, that's an altcoin.
Awesome, Boris. Thank you. From my side, that's all I have for today. If you have anything else, please feel free to add it.
That's it. Thank you, Colton. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to see you on the next Kryptonite video. I hope this video helps. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. And if you like the video at the end, click on the thumbs up.